If you're new to the channel, then welcome, and if you're returning to the channel, then welcome back. I just want to extend a quick thank you to all of you for tuning in. So I've been gone a week. I didn't write, I didn't call, I didn't even upload a 3-second video just to verify that I was alive and doing okay. So where was I? Well, I was on my vacation from my real job, and I decided that for the week and a half that I was on vacation, I wasn't going to do anything other than play Cyberpunk 2077, which is exactly what I did. Yeah, I know it's gotten some rough reviews in the mainstream, but you know what? Honestly, I thought it was a pretty good game. I'd give it an 8 out of 10, and that's as someone who played and beat the game on the PC version, which tend to get better reviews than some of the consoles. But overall, yeah, 8 out of 10 game, solid story. It's got some bugs here and there for sure, but I think in 6 months to a year after it gets all patched up and some DLC comes out, it's going to be exactly what people wanted. But we don't talk about video games on this channel. You're here because we talk about money, and early this week we got some very interesting information and news about upcoming stimulus, which brings us to today's video. Now, it's been a little while since we've actually talked about stimulus content on this channel, and that's because if you really want any good stimulus content and frequent updates, just watch Meet Kevin. That guy's like the god. He's the master of stimulus content. But I do like to hop in and give my opinion on things when something interesting pops up or some big news pops up, and I think this week is a good time to talk about some of the developments that we've seen when it comes to stimulus. In my previous videos, my stance was that we wouldn't see anything until Joe Biden actually took office in late January, and when I say see something, I mean actually getting a bill written and voted on and passed and signed into action, which means that you probably wouldn't see money in your pocket until like, say, February, early to mid-February. And my reasoning for that was because, for the past, 9-10 months, we've seen nothing but bickering and arguing between the Democrats and the Republicans because they're really just fighting over who gets to take responsibility, or rather who gets to take credit for getting a stimulus bill passed that ends up helping the American people. And this was mainly because of the election, but since Joe Biden has won the election, then, some people could argue that, it doesn't really matter at this point. But you have to keep in mind that we do have a runoff election that's coming up in January, as well as what if Trump decides to run for a 2024 presidency. So I'm sure you can imagine my surprised Pikachu face when earlier this week we got news that a bill was actually drafted, voted on and passed by both the House and Senate, which was focused on pandemic relief. And when it comes to stimulus checks, this meant a $600 stimulus check for people making under $75,000 a year. So I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, well, you were wrong about your prediction that we wouldn't see anything until January. But wait, there's more. See, when it came time for Trump to actually sign the bill to put it into effect, he said, no way, I'm not doing it, I'm not signing it. He cited reasons that were related to misallocation of funds and spending, as well as admonishing the bill creators for suggesting that the $600 stimulus check was even close to enough of an amount to help the people with that have been suffering as part of this pandemic. Suffering from an economic standpoint. So Trump suggested he wouldn't be signing anything unless there was at least a $2,000 stimulus check put into the bill. Now, of course, the bill wasn't only about stimulus checks. There was other pandemic relief things in there, such as increased unemployment benefits, helping with rent and mortgage payments, business relief loans, and tax benefits, and just other things tacked onto there, focused on kind of pandemic relief. Now, obviously, with Trump kind of dropping a bomb on everyone like this, not signing this bill when people were just expecting it to get signed through since it had passed both the Senate and the House, put the ball back into the Democrats' court, saying, I want at least $2,000. You guys need to figure this out. Well, Nancy Pelosi almost immediately responded saying that, yeah, $2,000 sounds great. And even went on to say that during the time that they were drafting the bill and working with different members of the House and the Senate, that none of the Republicans ever said or spoke about an amount that would be acceptable for the president that he would be willing to sign. Now, I do find this kind of funny because Trump has said on multiple occasions over the past several months that he wants to see more than $1,200 stimulus checks, that he would want to see at least $1,200, and has mentioned $2,000 in the past. So when the Democratic Party, kind of claims that as a surprise, I just kind of roll my eyes at that because it's been publicly talked about several times. But fast forwarding to today, Congress should have drafted a new bill that will be voted on, and we will see what the outcome of that will be, with the new amount of stimulus being adjusted to $2,000. Personally, I'm still iffy about this. I don't think that it's going to get passed. Again, we have to remember that this is not about helping American people, unfortunately. It's just about politics. So the political play here is that Trump most likely didn't sign so he could posture for two things. Number one is the upcoming runoff election. So obviously he wants a Republican to win that, and by suggesting that he wants more and that the Democrats aren't doing enough, it helps curry favor with the Republican Party. And the voters, actually. It helps curry favor with the voters for the Republican Party. That's what I meant to say. Now, the second and potentially more interesting long-term play is if Trump wants to run for a 2024 election. If he's able to actually get a $2,000 stimulus bill passed, that's a win in his book and in a lot of people's books, especially at the end of his presidency. It makes it look like he wanted to do something as a kind of last resort, nice thing for the people. And if he actually does plan on running for a 2024 presidency, you can bet that the next 4 years will be him talking about, or rather criticizing, everything that a Joe Biden presidency does or is rather incapable of doing, and citing his ability to actually get something passed, which put $2,000 into the pockets of the American people. Now, that's not me, taking a stance with Democrat or Republican. It's just me saying what I think the political play is here. And with that in mind, I think this means that the Democrats will probably make the adjustment to the stimulus check amount and say that, yeah, $2,000 does sound great, but what they won't do is pull out any of the other criticisms that Trump had about some of the spending that was going on in the bill, or they might even tack something on that they know that the Republicans or that President Trump would never agree to sign for, which will end up, keeping things in a stalemate, keeping things where they are. Because frankly, we've waited this long. Joe Biden is going to take office in basically a month. So since this is just politics and it's not actually about helping people, what's waiting another month going to hurt? Nothing. And when it comes to the blame game, especially if the Democrats are able to win the runoff election, then that means come January, they're going to be able to do whatever they want because they're going to have enough backing. So I would say, yeah, I'm sticking to my prediction of we probably won't see anything actually get passed and signed into action until late January, when Biden actually takes office. And again, we won't see any money going into people's pockets until early to mid-February. But I could be wrong on this. I was obviously surprised that anything even got voted on and passed earlier this week. But we'll see what happens. We're supposed to be voted on today. It could pass. And it could get signed into action. But I just don't think it will. With all that said, it's good to be back this week. We should be returning to our normally scheduled program. Subscribe, comment, like, do all that fun stuff. And I'll see you all next time.